It's being reported that the Toronto Blue Jays are getting aggressive in their pursuit of third baseman Alex Bregman. And while Alex Bregman is a very good baseball player that would immediately make this team better, not everyone is thrilled with this news. Because a lot of fans understand that Bregman to Toronto likely means Bo Bichette out of Toronto. So today we are breaking down the decision that the Toronto Blue Jays may be forced to make. Bregman or Bo. If they miss out on Kyle Tucker, which one of Bregman or Bo is better for this team? Does getting one truly rule out getting the other? And how do we see this situation actually playing out? So this report came out a few days ago, and it's what's kind of sparked up these conversations again. Mark Feinsand came out and said sources believe the Blue Jays and Diamondbacks may be the two most aggressive teams in the hunt for Bregman, though a Red Sox reunion remains a possibility. And actually, since he came out with this, I do believe that it's been reported Boston may have made an offer to Bregman. Whether or not that is going to amount to anything, we're going to have to wait and see. But who knows? Maybe the Diamondbacks, maybe Boston makes this decision really easy for Toronto. They just go up and sign him. We don't even need to think about it. But clearly, Toronto is looking at Alex Bregman. And when this initially came out, there was actually a relatively negative response from the Blue Jays community, which I kind of understand, but I also don't really understand either, because looking over at Alex Bregman, he is a very solid baseball player. Yes, he's 31 years old right now and should be 32 at the start of next season. Actually, on March 30th is his birthday, so right as the season would be starting, he'd be turning 32. But he's always been good, man. He's just always been good in MLB. Last year, a 3.5 WAR. Keep in mind, he didn't play the full season. I believe he played 114 games. So on pace for what is that, 5 WAR right there. Really strong season. 821 OPS, amazing. On base of 360. Like, across the board, he was really, really good. And defensively speaking, he doesn't fall off either, right? Like, he's actually considered to be one of the better third basemen in all of baseball. He was in the 83rd percentile in outs above average last year. And if you can imagine, and I think this for me is where I actually start to get rather excited about this whole possibility, and we'll get to Bo Bichette in a second because this whole video is about choosing between the two. But what excites me about potentially bringing in Alex Bregman is the idea of having that infield, of having Vladdy at first, Ernie at second, because if Bregman's coming over, you're going to have him play his primary position. So Ernie goes to second, Jimenez is the shortstop full time now, and then Bregman is your third baseman. And that infield to me, well, not just to me, just, you know, statistically speaking, might be the best defensive infield in all of baseball. Then throw Alejandro Kirk at catcher, and you're just talking about a tandem right there of just incredible defense, highlight level plays. Every series is what you could expect with a defense, with an infield like that, having Bregman in there. So for me, that is definitely very exciting, very tantalizing. But let's talk about the cons. Let's talk about the negatives with Alex Bregman. We brought up the age, and that is certainly a factor. He's going to be 32 years old, and that's certainly something to consider right there. And when is the fall off going to happen? Could it be in the next few seasons? Certainly could be. There's also the argument of health and of injury. The 2 seasons prior to this, actually the 3 seasons prior to this, Bregman was fairly healthy the entirety of the season, but last year was a little banged up. Is that a product of age? Was that just unluckiness? What was that? So I can see some negatives here, but I think the biggest negative that a lot of people point to is that bringing Bregman in almost assuredly means losing Bo Bichette, and I do agree with that. What doesn't make any sense, going out, getting Bregman, and then also getting Bo Bichette. What do you do with Jimenez at that point? Where does, you know, some of the other guys go of Ernie Clement and Addison Barger? You're already forcing in a little bit by bringing in somebody like an Alex Bregman. So to bring in both of them, that is a lot of money spent on the infield, and it's just not something that Toronto is going to do. Looking over at the roster right here as it stands today, as you can see, no Bo Bichette on the roster, but if you slot in Alex Bregman in there, So let's say that he plays third. Addison Barger now moves over to one of the outfield spots, which likely kicks Nathan Lucas out. Well, then if you bring in Bo Bichette as well, who are you kicking out now? Andres Jimenez, I suppose, but that's a lot of money on Andres Jimenez that's just going to, well, nothing at that point, right? It'd be going to nothing, so he'd be on the bench. So if they are going to go out and get Alex Bregman, it does mean the loss of Bo Bichette, and that would be a major loss, because looking over at what Bo has done, I mean, I don't have to go too deep into this, you already know, but this is a really strong baseball player in his own right. Doesn't have the same defensive prowess as Alex Bregman, for sure, but from an offensive standpoint, you could argue that he's at least on par, if not maybe a little bit better. Bo Bichette batted .311 last year. He also had a WAR of 3.5 and did miss some time, just like Alex Bregman did. Not as much time as Bregman, and I think that's where you see the defensive WAR factor in for Alex and not necessarily for Bo, but still, Bo Bichette, offensively speaking, a 129 OPS plus, 840 OPS on the dot. His runners in scoring position average, that's something that I think a lot of people forget about. Now that we're out of the season, now that we're not in the rigmarole of the 162, that was a big talking point in the entirety of the season. Bo Bichette, with runners in scoring position, he was batting close to 400 the entire season, leading all of MLB. That is valuable right there. And on top of all of that, you have the camaraderie. Him, Vladdy, him, George, him, all, name it, right? Bo has been here just as long as anyone, if not longer than most people, right? So there's that element, there's the team element. Yes, there is the defensive knock on Bo Bichette, and that firmly goes to Alex Bregman. It's definitely going to be Alex Bregman. He's got the defense, but offensively speaking, they are at least on par with each other. And then Bo Bichette's camaraderie with the team, you have to factor that in. But I think the most, or the biggest argument, I guess, for keeping Bo Bichette, it's simply the age, right? You look over at Bo, and, well, Bo is going to be 28 in the beginning of the season in 2026. He's going to be turning 28 on March 5th. Bregman's going to be turning 32 on March 30th. So you're talking about a difference here of 4 seasons. And whilst Bregman might actually be the more complete baseball player right now, how long is he going to stay like that? Turning 33 the next year and 34 the following season. How long is he going to stay the more complete baseball player? And I say that with a bit of a question mark, because I do think that there are arguments for who is the more complete player here. I do tend to lean a little bit to Alex Bregman just due to the defense, and he did have an awesome offensive season last year as well, but it's marginal. And how long is it going to stay like that? Whereas Bo Bichette, with 4 years of youth on Alex Bregman, is he going to bridge that gap? Is Bo Bichette going to get better? Is Bregman going to fall off significantly? I think these are all the questions, and I think this is why once you heard the Toronto Blue Jays are aggressively pursuing Alex Bregman, there was a little bit of this negative response from Blue Jays fans, because they know what that means, and going and getting Bregman would mean losing out on Bo Bichette. So let's talk about what I think about this whole situation, who I would prefer. Well, we can all agree that looking over at the roster right now, it's Kyle Tucker number 1. I think that we've all kind of come to terms with that at this point. I've been on that train for a long time now. That's why I'm not even really bringing him up in this video. Kyle Tucker is the number 1. He is the overwhelming better baseball player between Bregman, Bo, factoring in the age, the defense, everything. I know he's going to cost a ton more money, but still the value is there. But looking at the squad right now, I do believe, for me, I would prefer Bo Bichette on the team, even though I would not be upset in the slightest if they went out and they got Alex Bregman. I am not going to throw a temper tantrum if they go and they get Alex Bregman and they don't go and get Bo Bichette back, and Bo Bichette has to walk. I will be upset if he goes to the Yankees. That would suck. I don't want that. I would be excited if he goes to the Red Sox. That would suck. Don't want that either. But if Toronto went out and got Alex Bregman, I wouldn't be upset about it. That being said, I do think I would prefer Bo Bichette. And the reason is because I look at this team right now, and the biggest strength that Bregman has over Bo is the defense. That's his biggest tier difference. Offensively speaking, they're very close with one another, but the biggest difference in talent of just overall play comes from the defense of Bregman compared to the defense of Bo. And I look at the team right now, and yes, we are very strong offensively speaking, but we're also really strong defensively speaking. And Ernie Clement is in that infield anyways, and he played an awesome third base, right? He was really, really damn good. That defense, that infield defense is still awesome with or without Bregman. Now, it would be world class. It'd be world class with Bregman added as well. But do we need to make that move? Is that going to be the difference between Toronto winning or losing a World Series? I don't think so. I wouldn't be upset about it, obviously, but I don't think so. Where I think about Bo Bichette on this roster, where he factors in, what he does, well, we've seen it for 6 seasons. We know what he provides. We know what he's capable of. And we think back to that Game 7 where things were so close. The only reason that Game 7 was so close was because Bo Bichette hit a 3-run jack earlier in the game. That game might not have been nearly as entertaining had Bo Bichette not been on the team. Maybe we just lose in 9, right? But we went to extras. It was a game. We all thought that we might actually win the World Series. And the only reason why is because earlier in the game, Bo Bichette hit that 3-run jack and came up clutch with runners in scoring position and put the Toronto Blue Jays dramatically on the board. And you saw him do that time and time and time again in the regular season. Not saying that Alex Bregman couldn't do that or wouldn't do that, because he is just as capable or close to just as capable. But when we're looking at these two players and how they factor into this roster, I do believe that for me, it's got to be Bo Bichette 1 and Alex Bregman 2, which is why it is a little bit surprising, concerning, if you will. I'm not concerned, I guess, but I am surprised that Toronto is so aggressive in their pursuit for Alex Bregman, where you haven't really heard them talk about Bo Bichette. And in fact, it feels like Bo Bichette is the odd man out right here. There was a report that came out, it was the same report actually, it was from Mark Feinstein, but he later went out and he spoke about Bo Bichette in that article. And he talked about how he believes Bo Bichette's future is directly tied to Alex Bregman. And that's because teams are looking at Bregman more, right? He says with the Jays' interest in Bregman, Feinstein noted that Bichette's future might or may be tied to what happens with Bregman, as the Red Sox are reportedly in on both players. It's not Bregman's future is tied to Bo, it's Bo's future is tied to Bregman. So for whatever reason, maybe it is the defense, maybe it's the declining speed, it feels like teams, the Jays, the Red Sox, maybe even the Yankees as well, are prioritizing Bregman, are looking at Bregman first and Bo Bichette second. Is that right? You can debate it in the comments. They obviously have their reasons. For me, I think I just want to have Bo Bichette back. However, I wouldn't be upset at all if Toronto went out and got Alex Bregman. You know, if I'm to predict how this whole thing is going to fall out, I know that they went out and they said that they were being extremely aggressive in Bregman, and maybe they go and maybe they make that move, but it does feel like the furthest shot for me to go and get Bregman and to further solidify the defensive prowess of this team. Do we really need to do that right now? If we're strictly looking for offense, Bo Bichette is the easiest fit. And then alternatively, there's Kyle Tucker as well, who is the number 1 guy and who does both. He's got defense and he's got offense. So I do still think that even though they're being extremely aggressive, it is a rather long shot to go out and get Bregman. And if I had to bet my life on it, I still think that he goes to Boston, and I would be okay with that. Boston, you take Bregman, you make the decision easy for the Toronto Blue Jays. They can then decide between Bo Bichette or Kyle Tucker. However, it would be a little scary to see Bregman leave the board, and the Toronto Blue Jays haven't got their bat yet. But for me, it is Bo Bichette by a hair over Alex Bregman. But I do want to just make everybody aware that if they went and they got Alex Bregman, the sky isn't falling. This team is still good. I'm not going to get upset about it. The offense would still be incredible. Bregman would make this team better. He's maybe got just the tiniest bit more question marks than Bo Bichette does, but it'd still be an awesome squad nonetheless. But for me, Bo slightly over Bregman. I hope that's where they go. Or honestly, I hope that none of this conversation even matters at all, and they just go out and they get Kyle Tucker. But folks, let me know what you think about all this in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, go Jays go.